Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this long-awaited meeting of the Amistad Commission. It's been quite some time. I'll introduce myself. I'm Dan Shapiro. I'm Secretary of State, Cesar Paralysis designee, as Chair.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Larry Pasca, Coordinator of Student Support Services at the State Education Department.
And Vice Chair.
Vice Chair.
That's right.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Casey Jacobowski. I am an Associate for Social Studies Education, newly appointed at the State Education Department.
And I'm Carlos Medina from the State Education. I was the State Education. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor for Diversity and Inclusion for the State University of New York, and I'm the Chancellor of the State.
Pleasure.
I'm Jonathan Cornu. I'm a board member for the National Abolition Hall of Fame and Museum in Peterborough, New York, and I am a staff and curriculum development specialist for the Madison Oneida BOCES.
Wonderful. New member.
I'm Mary Teresa Struck. I'm the Executive Director and Principal of the Art Community Charter School in Troy, New York.
And folks in the city. Sue, you want to start?
Sue Watson, General Counsel, Department of State.
Yeah, I'm Lisa Catalfamo. I am from upstate. I'm a school social worker. I've been on the commission for a few years.
I'm Robert Lloyd, Long Island Citizens for Community Values. I live on Long Island. I'm a New Yorker, born and raised here, and our organization helps protect women and children from a sexualized culture.
Hi, I'm Sylvia Lewis. I'm from Narrative Network, and we specialize in multicultural issues and
Well,
topics.
welcome everybody. I'm really delighted to finally be able to schedule this meeting. We were moving along pretty well for a while, and then we hit a couple snags, and some of it had to do with establishing the quorum. But we're here now, I'm delighted to say, and well represented and ready to begin the work of the Amistad Commission anew. So what I thought I'd do, by the way, welcome new members. I want to say, Sylvia and Mary, welcome. You are our new appointees. Yes, it's a pleasure to have you. So what I thought I'd do, both for a refresher course for the existing members, the old members, and for the new members, I wanted to take you through the statute so that you had a good, strong context for what the Amistad Commission is to accomplish. So why don't we start with the constituency of the ex officio members, which is, of course, Department of State, SED, and SUNY Chancellor. The department stands as chair of the commission. Secretary of State does. And SED stands as the technical and substantive expert for the Amistad agenda, if you will. So I have always viewed the department's role as sort of an executive secretary to the commission, and SED's role as the expert who will help develop the recommendations of the commission so we can put pen to paper or accomplish what it is that we agree that we need to accomplish. And of course, SUNY is an integral partner in that whole process. So you have state agencies that are most able to move the agenda forward. I'm not going to address the substantive issues of the Amistad development piece because, again, that's the expertise of SUNY. Yeah, we'll do that. And state education. So those are the ex officio members. Obviously, the members we have their various fields of expertise and have been extremely helpful in educating us with respect to what ought to happen with respect to infusion of the African American experience into educational culture. Now, the Amistad Commission has very specific duties that are set forth in statute, and I'll direct you to the handout. And it's only one page. I did back and front, so it's easy and transportable. All right. The font is like that big, so if any of you need glasses, put them on now. But on the back of
Dan, I think we've got a problem. We have
yes, there is a. I
for our
out
handout.
the
It's the agenda on both
haven't
sides.
got it?
Was there something else?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm going to just read this, and
well,
Pamela's there, right?
I have a copy that I brought myself.
Okay.
I'll ask Pam
And for the minutes,
to,
Pamela, I'm just
to
going
make
through
a
the
copy.
statute. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just read it for folks. So, section 57.53 of the statute provides for the duties and responsibilities of the commission.
Okay.
And there really are four of them, and I'll just read. The first one is to survey and catalog the extent and breadth of education. Oh, hello there. We have a new member. Yes, can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Sylvia Lewis. Nice to meet you, Enid.
Yes.
Yes.
Enid, how are you?
Hi.
It's been a long time.
Enid Schildkraut,
I was just
from
going
the Museum for African Art. I'm on the
through
commission.
the statutory responsibilities, Enid.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
so the first responsibility
talking
is
to
to
you?
survey and catalog the extent and breadth of education concerning the African slave trade,
Okay.
slavery in America, the vestiges of slavery in this country, and the contributions of African Americans to our society, presently being incorporated into the curricula and textbooks and taught in the school systems of the state. Now, SED did some work on that. Obviously, the work that has been done needs to be updated, and we'll address that separately. But that's something that some work has been done on. The second of the tasks is to inventory those African slave trade, American slavery, or relevant African American history memorials, exhibits, and resources which should be incorporated into courses of study at educational institutions and schools throughout the state. That's number 2. Number 3 is to compile a roster of individual volunteers who are willing to share their knowledge and experience in classrooms, seminars, and workshops. And I'll skip reading the rest of it. You can read that. And finally, to prepare reports for the governor or legislature regarding its findings and recommendations on facilitating the inclusion of the African slave trade, American slavery studies, African American history, and special programs in the educational system of the state. Now, we have not progressed to the point where we are ready to do a report, and in fact, but much of this remains to be done. So that is what we'll be tackling in the next few months. I'd like to address where we are, where we've been, where we are, just for a moment. Many of the folks that were working on this at SED and the Department of State are no longer with us in state practice. In fact, I think, and I don't want to take words out of your mouth, with respect to SED, not a single soul that worked with us previously is currently employed at SED. Retirements have a way of doing that. God bless them all. So in a sense, we have an opportunity to start anew, and it's a deficit because some of the expertise that was developed just by virtue of receiving information, listening to commission meetings is no longer here. I may be, Sue, I don't know if you attended. No, you didn't. I don't think you attended any commission meetings. I may be the only person along with Carlos and the commission members who exist, who were here before, who recall what was going on with the commission. But we'll sort of deal with it. But so, it's a new day. It's a new day, and we hope to move forward. So, that being said, any questions about the Amistad duties and responsibilities before we move on to the SED presentation?
No, I do. Okay.
Great. So, Larry, why don't you take it? I think Larry has some exciting news for us, and I'll let him tell us all about it.
Okay. So among some of the changes that have been occurring in the State Education Department, and just to kind of reflect what you've probably been reading in the media, in news and seeing television reports and just hearing among many public discussions, there has been a national reform effort for education underway for the past few years. One of the major catalysts for that reform effort has been the Race to the Top program. New York State, along with many other states, applied for federal dollars for Race to the Top, and were successful in receiving nearly $700 million in 2010. So at that time, as we were applying for these funds, the Board of Regents was launching what we're calling the Regents Reform Agenda. And it's ultimately predicated on the notion that every child who graduates from high school in New York State is ready for college and ready for career. And with that bold statement, we've gone forward as a department to really catalyze the state education system around that goal. And for those of you that pass by the education building and see that our mission has been to raise the knowledge, skill, and opportunity of all the people of New York State, those obviously are mutually interdependent goals. The reason for this catalyst is, I think I would argue, decades of research on what high-quality standards look like, on what it means to have really effective teaching in a classroom, how you can measure learning year after year, the data that's needed to inform both teaching practice and learning in the educational environment. So the Regents Reform Agenda is ultimately based on really a three-strategy approach that's interconnected. The first is to implement college and career-ready standards. So nationally, there's an organization, National Governors Association, in partnership with the Council of Chief State School Officers, or CCSSO, has developed and implemented what are called Common Core standards. Every state had the option to sign up and consider adoption of these standards. New York State's Board of Regents adopted the standards as New York State's P12 Common Core Learning Standards in 2011. And these standards are for English language arts and literacy and for mathematics. P12, English language arts and literacy standards, though, have a component for literacy in history/social studies, science, and other technical subjects. What that means is we understand the importance of developing literacy skills in our students in all subject areas, including social studies. So as the board has approved these standards, one of the things that we as a department are looking to do is how we both ensure implementation of the Common Core with fidelity statewide, how we provide tools and resources to our schools to do that. And that's just one strand. The second strand is looking at data to inform instruction. What is the evidence that we as educators use to know that our students are on track year after year for college and career readiness? What does the data from, for example, state assessments or local assessments, activities that kids are doing in school every day, how do those keep us on track year after year? The third piece to this is looking at teacher and leader effectiveness. So how do we implement an evaluation system for our teachers and our school leaders that's based on evidence as well, observations, on assessment scores, on measures of student growth year after year, and how do we implement that system so that every school district around the state has the ability to measure their teachers and leaders effectively. So these three sections, again, together form the Regents Reform Agenda, and the opportunity for teaching and learning is to really look very seriously at how we define college and career ready. And I think what's unique from the standards that we work from is we have a framework for P12 education in our standards, and now we have the ability to really map year after year what are the fundamental skills in literacy and in building mathematical understanding and fluency that year after year we can chart in progress. And now here as social studies educators, how does this work inform our practice? So that's kind of the challenge where we're at now. Currently, implementation of the Common Core standards is happening this year. We as a department have been working with practitioners in the field through turnkey training and professional development, something called a Network Team Institute. And this has provided superintendents, curriculum directors, professional developers to think about strategies for implementing the reform agenda at a local level, and then turnkey that back through their regional BOCES, through their city school districts, et cetera. So that work has started. That work is ongoing this year into next year. And meanwhile, as you've seen, implementation of the other elements of this reform agenda have also been ongoing concurrently. So that's the major thrust and change where we're at now. Obviously, a ripe opportunity for us to think about implementation of the standards and what teaching and learning looks like in a college and career-ready framework. And that's really the focus of our department and what I wanted to share with the commission today and have us talk about.
So Larry, how does that fit in with the work that the Amistad Commission is charged with doing?
So one of the things we will need to do over time clearly is look at social studies and the intersection of Common Core and social studies. One of the things we have, as you know, the standards, which are still our New York State standards for social studies. We have curriculum, social studies resource guide with core curriculum. We obviously will be looking over time at curriculum guidance and the types of guidance and frameworks that we would provide to the field to support, again, college and career readiness as our ultimate goal. So again, an opportunity for us, I think, to look at our work in that context. And one of the things that we want to do is continue to solicit the support of identifying those experts in the field that can be instructional resources to our schools, that can provide instructional guidance to our districts, whether it's web-based, whether it's in-person trainings, through our networks like the BOCES, et cetera. So again, just an open kind of conversation that we wish to seek at this time about what that infusion looks like, what that intersection of Common Core, how that connects to this work, the work of the commission.
So these are our experts in a sense, right, for informing
Yes.
us with respect to, I don't speak SED very well,
Okay.
identifying curriculum guidance,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, we develop curriculum guidance materials for schools in supporting the integration of our social studies program. So that's just an area where it's, we'll put out, as you know, with our core curriculum, a document that's intended to guide the development of our state assessments. It's intended to develop guidance around our local curriculum that school districts have. But again, the work of the commission, we need to ensure that we have resources available to our schools in teaching these critical topics and ensuring that the topics that are required in our standards and curriculum are implemented with fidelity and care in our schools.
So we have experts on the commission who certainly can provide SED, with information that will be useful to them. And then I expect that the commission members can network to obtain information that we need. In fact, we did some of that in the past. Obviously, it's been a couple years and things need to be updated and we need more. But before I give you my ideas, I'd rather hear the commission members' ideas as to where they think we should be heading and how we should be getting there. So I'm going to open this up for general discussion. So, folks, any comments, suggestions, queries? Yes. Hi, Lisa.
Dan, I have a question. Lisa Cattell. I started on the commission, what's it been, 2 or 3, whenever we started. And because I work in a school district, I work as a social worker in Glens Falls City School District. I'm always kind of, thinking of kind of what the Amistad is hoping to do and accomplish, and then also with all the state ed folks there, I'm sure you hear plenty. But, today, for example, New York State tests are being given upstate. We're all, I'm missing I'm missing work to be here and hoping that all these kids that I deal with that are truant and whatnot are in school today taking their exams. So I guess I'm thinking in a framework of, knowing that the commission is changing over in terms of members, I'd like to know a little bit more of who's on it, because originally I think that I was one of the few. There was a retired teacher I know, but there weren't a lot of people in public schools or in education, in the education system in terms of New York State ed. And I think that because so much of it will be part of that Common Core curriculum, which we're doing even as a school social worker, I'm in the middle of all kinds of trainings on Common Core. In our district. So I think it would be really helpful to have more folks, and I'm just meeting the new people and kind of getting reacquainted, but the idea of having more people that are in school buildings, in classrooms trying to work on these things, so I feel like that needs to be a little bit more robust and kind of build that up a little bit, and it might be more helpful. In my district, it's not very diverse. It's north of Albany. I still walk down the halls and I see Black History Month, which is exactly what the commission was trying to not do, to have every month be, have Black History be part of every month, and like we had just said, more seamless. So I'm just to back up a little bit and see who else are we going to be working with, or who else can we count on as we try and move forward in the context of all of the state ed core curriculum, core standards, and all of that. Does that make sense?
Well, I like what you're bringing out, and I also like that as part of our mission too. My group, Narrative Network, we're a media group actually, but we also are connected with a lot of resources. And in particular, I was thinking of a group that I'm very involved with called Coming to the Table. And this is a group of black folks and white people who, through genealogy, have done research on their families, and especially the white people in the group, and they found that many of the American families, unbeknownst to them, have involvement with slavery. So that's a chapter that I think has been left out of, in terms of, I have a degree in African American studies. I know I've never really read about that. I learned about abolitionists, of course. And then the other piece of it, from slavery, then you come to civil rights. And Julian Bond, I was just speaking with him, and he is very interested in seeing that more American children are literate or have civil rights literacy. And I think that's also a piece of this story, a piece of our mission, in that, yes, we do want to learn about black history, we do want to learn about slavery, but we do want to incorporate the white people and the black people so that we don't feel like, oh, it's just those black people's history, and that the white people aren't, or the white kids today have no stake in it. I think that we want to find a way so that kids today feel like that they do have a stake in it. And then I want to just bring out, for instance, I am a journalist. My company is a media company. And I just recently interviewed Cheryl Wills. I don't know if you ever see her on Channel 1. And she wrote a story that's called Die Free. And it was about her own family history story. And she discovered that her great-great-great-grandfather fought in the Civil War in the colored troops. And he had run away from his plantation and joined the troops. And she used
great.
this as a curriculum
really
to
is.
teach in different schools in New York.
Sylvia, both you
And
Lisa touched on
she
two
lives in
different
Long
points.
Island, actually. And she
And
said
that's
that
what-
the
Lisa,
little white
I
children
think-
did the
I
role
think
playing.
your-
They played
your,
this slave running
point
away
is
from
that
the
we need resources for folks on the
plantation to
ground in
join the
schools,
army,
all right,
to
in order
fight
to
for
understand what's
freedom. I
happening
mean,
in
it was
schools.
just
Is that
really
essentially correct?
wonderful. That is what she explained to me, that the little children, she said they were in the 2nd and 3rd grade, really identified with the story, with the slavery story. So I just thought I would share just some of those examples
Right.
and ideas that I thought we could look at. Yes, definitely. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I just come from a conflicted place where I feel, passionate that what the Amistad Commission is charged with is it should be. All of this should be. And then I am in it, and a day-to-day I'm in a school district, and I'm, it's a Title I, it's a poverty school. It's not a big city school or anything, and so I see the reality, and I always try and overlay, okay, what you would like to see happen, what the goal of this is, into school districts, and there's a long way. You just think of, everybody is so stressed in public school right now. People are worried about losing their jobs. Not just, because of budgets as much as because of the new system that's just been adopted for evaluation. And, we're having the problems run deep, I guess, is what I'm saying. And so to come in with the Amistad Commission, I feel like it has to be, we have to really be very diligent about how it's presented, so that it's not just kind of put aside by a lot of
Yeah.
folks, because I think that the priorities are such
Right, well,
in a
what I'm
survival
gonna do
mode for so many
is,
public schools
Pamela,
right now.
we'll
that
send out a
No matter how
a list
great
of
the
all
content and
members,
how
all
worthwhile
right,
and
with
important,
their,
people might
very short
just feel like another
biographical
thing,
paragraph,
kind of
so that we can scour that up. I think
So,
we can.
so I guess
Also,
I'm just, I
everybody
hate
knows
to be the
everybody else
downer
is
at the
the content.
beginning of this
The next thing, not
conversation.
rounding out, I
but
think
just,
what we're going to have to do
just
is
in
to
keeping that
have
in mind in
the
terms
commission
of,
members
you know,
who have
moving
the
forward,
networking
and that's why I
capacity
think,
and knowledge
like, there's,
who's out there to
Dan,
help
I mean,
us
we've
to
sat at
establish
meetings
experts
together, and I know that there's not a lot of folks here today.
all right, in
So
order
I
to
guess I'm
develop
just
what we think
wondering,
we need to develop.
kind of,
And
as
so
we
that,
move forward,
with
who else
respect
can
to
round out
educators on the
this
ground, you know, I think
group,
that
this team
SED
to
could be
kind of
very
meet that
helpful with
mission,
that.
you know?
You're right, we need to make sure that in fact, what ultimately is going to be offered has to be accepted. All right, and I don't know the best way to do that, but, you know, you're a voice there, and hopefully we'll find other voices that can help to inform us. And Sylvia, I don't want to forget you. Your vignette that you just told us is wonderful. That's a resource. I mean, as you're talking about that, I'm saying, oh my God, look, that's part of the inventory. That's part of the resource that we ought to be providing for folks to access. And there are many, many resources. We know this. This is not a mystery. All right? There are resources all over the place, but folks either don't know that, or I suspect folks do know it. They don't have one place to go, perhaps, to find it, or they're stressed, right? And they don't have time to look for it. And perhaps one of the things that we can do is to provide a place, an easy, accessible place where those resources can be listed and accessed.
I think
if it
so.
doesn't already exist, it may well already exist, I don't know, but we're going to find out, all right? So, but I would love if you, well, we'll get to how we're going to coordinate this information maybe in a few minutes. I don't want to shut down conversation generally. So why don't we continue, and then I'll have some suggestions about how to funnel information into us.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
There are so many resources, right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
I'd like to say something. I'm retired now, but I'm still working at the Museum for African Art as a consultant, and I formerly was at the American Museum of Natural History. So I think was on the commission to bring the museum piece into it. And as I recall, what we did last time was make, kind of a list of exhibitions that might be relevant. But since I, for example, know mostly about New York City, and this is a state commission, we didn't do what I think could be done is some kind of survey of what museums and exhibitions and historical sites have to offer in different parts of the state, and how to bring that together in a way that's useful. Because as you said, teachers are stressed out, how much time they have to go to these off-site, out-of-school things, I don't know.
Regulates
but
might not be the
we
right
could
word, but
possibly do
catalogs knows all the
some sort of
museums in the state.
survey
Yeah, we actually
of
our
these
board
sites
charters,
and
state
museums. Some of them have
historical
online
societies,
resources.
libraries, cultural institutions.
Because I
there
don't
are a
know,
couple
I
of
don't think
organizations
anybody
that might
knows
be
off
good
the
to
top
begin with. There's the Museum
of their head
Association of New York
everything
State,
that's going on
NANI, I think they're called, that's
exists.
their acronym.
So if we wrote
they would be a really good
letter
resource to
maybe
use. We
to
also
the
work a lot in
Education
partnership with
Department
NYLA, the
or
New York
Public
Library
Relations
Association.
Department of all of
again, I
these
know many libraries have
the names of the
exhibits,
historic
that are often
sites and
put on,
museums that we already
definitely,
assembled. I
book
think we
fairs,
could
other
get some
presentations.
information
I
that
can
might be
speak for our Albany
useful
Public
to
Library locally,
add
that there's
to
always events going
a
on.
website or whatever
so
we're going to create.
that might be a place to
Disseminate this
begin. And as
information.
far as our own Office of Cultural Education, we have the State Archives, the State Museum, the State Library. Our State Archives works really in tandem. They have a whole, they have an office that deals with education programming, and they've been working right now to do things like document, make publicly available information about voting rights, for example. That's a web-based resource that is currently under development. They also have a web-based document showcase that talks about different efforts of African Americans petitioning different levels of government throughout the 1900s. So that's another, again, web-based resource that's being created. So just at a state level, Cultural Ed does have resources. They work with our state's institutions to provide resources. They often will take traveling exhibits from different museums around the state, host them in Cultural Ed as well. So again, I may recommend tapping some of those networks like the Museum Association or the New York Library Association, maybe entry points to catalog.
Do you want to, perhaps that's something we could work on and provide back to the commission, like, because they'll solicit what exists. Maybe that's something we could do and have ready for the next meeting. Does that sound good?
We can talk about that, certainly, because those networks are there that we can.
Yeah, just so we can identify them, and then we'll take it from there. Once we identify them, then we can figure out how to use them. That's great.
I like that idea that you just brought up about tapping into the resources like the libraries and the museum associations. It's great because then we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like you said, there's so many resources that exist already. So we could just, and I looked at, I guess maybe all of you guys did too, I looked at the other Amistad commissions throughout the country to see what they're doing. New Jersey, for instance, and Connecticut, and all, other places have Amistad commissions. And I noticed that they really made use of this whole web-based kind of resource kind of thing. And I think that would be great if the great state of New York were, as you said, maybe build a website and provide a central way, a place where people, where teachers and educational groups will know how to get access to resources. But to the other part of this, though, is that I do feel that there's a certain amount of re-education that I believe that the Amistad really is at the forefront of. I mean, we have to, we're really admitting that what we've been learning has not been the whole truth about America's history, and that the Amistad Commission really is wanting to right some of the wrongs of what the history books have been teaching. So I don't know. I mean, our mission is to do a survey to see what are they learning. I don't really know. As you said earlier, some of the kids, you don't know what, you know a little bit about what they're learning about Black history, and it's still taught as this separate little piece. And, our dream is that it would all be inclusive and it would be one big holistic story of the American experience. But right now it's not like that yet. So what we're doing is trying to, I guess, patch and fix some of those gaps.
You know, my name's Robert Lloyd, and I'm new to this. I'm not a teacher. Do I deal with kids, lots of troubled kids all the time that are either middle school, high school, they get in trouble, and a lot of times is they feel that they have no history.
Exactly.
One of the schools, my grandson came home the other day and said, "Pop, I've been taking black history. Somehow they incorporated a teacher to be able to do this." And he took it all the way back, and he began to explain the strengths of a black person, of the black family. What happened when we came to the United States, right? But how also that because that happened, that you can't hold grudges, you can't let it keep you back, you know? And he went on for about 15 minutes without stopping. I mean, he was so engrossed in it, and you know, he's just a regular black teenager, and he seemed so engulfed into this that one of my goals is going to be to visit his teacher to find out where he got his information from and why, you know, all the kids are so involved in it, because we need to have it in the museums, in the libraries, but some way we need to be able to get that in the schools. Yes, in the community.
Exactly.
That's where we need, because I'm a little prejudiced on this part, but because those kids don't know. They don't know their history. They don't, someone think, you know, the only history they have is what they see when they go home, an alcoholic mother and a drug addict father, and, you know, and nothing, absolutely nothing. But these kids that got a hold to this piece, it seems like something sparked inside of them, and I believe also what you're talking about as well. What are we going to do with this? I mean, is this going to be another piece thrown out there?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be something that we're going to take serious and bring to the council?
Exactly, and I'm so glad that he brought this up, because it's not just the white kids that don't know black history, it's the black kids. And this is what Julian Bond was saying recently. He's saying that the black kids don't know who Martin Luther King is.
Right.
I mean, a lot of the white kids in the private schools actually know the history better than our public school kids. This is what's amazing to me.
And why I think this is so important, because, I mean, I know somewhat of black history. My brother started the first black museum in Hempstead, Long Island. But
Well, that's your brother?
it's Steve Lloyd.
Yeah, I know your brother.
Yeah. And what happened was that when they began to talk about the certain things that took place, like, let me give you an example. George Washington. Well, two of the men on that boat with him and went through him through the wars were black.
Right.
Now, when these kids heard this, they go, "Wow, man, listen, if they can get to that position, why can't I?" And I think that's my focus would like to be on that community piece, to see how we can do that, to bring it, to make it real, you know. And I believe we can do it. I believe it'll help a lot of kids if we can do that as well.
The other piece that I feel really has to be part of this commission, because I'm biased, because I'm an Africanist, I'm an anthropologist who studies Africa, and art historian. I think there's certainly need for this in the geography curriculum, but there are a lot of people, recent African immigrants in the U.S. And I know that in New York City there's also a certain amount of tension between African Americans and, in some neighborhoods, Africans. And a lot of that comes from lack of knowledge and understanding. It really flared up after 9/11 in New York. But I think it's still there. But I think that these immigrant communities, which I believe are not just in New York City,
Definitely not.
have a lot to offer, and should be part of this story, because they have a common heritage.
I agree with you.
Let me share something with you.
Yes.
You know, when you talk about the African that have come here, and those that were in slavery, the mentality is this, is that the Haitian, the African that comes from Africa, comes over here, and their attitude is that American blacks should be in a much better position than they are, and that they're worthless. That's their attitude. And with that attitude, now hear me, because I'm going to jump right into what you're saying, but that attitude needs to change. And I believe if they would understand what my grandfather and my great-grandfather went through, they would understand that they were ripped from any kind of dignity, integrity, anything at all that made them feel like a human being. And that has carried right over until today. And I think you're right in one thing that they need to get involved to see what American blacks went through.
Yeah, no, I
She's talking about the
I agree
African
with you.
culture, right?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that this is an area where there's a lot of work to be done in terms of social relationships, but there is a common history, but the common history diverged, and both groups need to understand that.
Right.
I mean, I know that this is a sensitive area, but I think it's something that the commission could touch on if it's done carefully and it's done right. I mean, I take your point. I see what you're saying. But I think it goes both ways, because after 9/11, these African kids in Harlem were really taunted because a lot of them were Muslims. So there was a lot of tension there.
Well,
I know
that
because I
sort
was
of
working on
sort
it.
of where do you stop and where do you draw the line? Because,
Right.
I mean, I would hazard a guess that the study of Africa is also incredibly lacking.
Right.
It is, yeah.
Well, yeah, like I looked at one of the curriculums from the New Jersey Amistad curriculum website, and they break it down. Well, the first unit is about social studies skills, I guess. That's the first. The teachers in the room or in the panel would know what that is. And then the next one is about indigenous civilizations of the Americas. So what you're saying is that, okay, with the Native Americans, the Africans, and the Europeans. So these are the things, these are the cultures that we have to learn more about. But I thought what he was bringing out, what you're bringing out, are really, really very important, because that piece of the African root of so many of us, I mean, it's really the root of the whole civilization, the whole human civilization. And I think that if people understood that, if they were more knowledgeable about where the human race comes from, I think, I mean, if you're a cultural anthropologist, you know that what the oldest bones they found were where? In Africa. So then I think that it helps to broaden the story. And even Professor Gates, he's just did this program on the Latino history. He's gone to South America and the Caribbean and Mexico, and showed that this was slavery. The reason why there's black people there is slavery. And so in New York, here, and all over the state, where you have Dominicans and Haitians and Jamaicans, people who want to look down on the African American, they have to recognize that they are from the same place. Right. They cannot separate. They have to really understand where their history. And I think that this is a wonderful opportunity that we have. So I agree with you that, yes, it's like an uphill battle. It's really hard. There's so many other things that need to be done, but I think that that we can show that history is not really as boring as it used to be. If you tell the truth, that if you found out what really happened, it won't be boring to you.
Well, I think it's because you get excited over the potential for ways for avenues for young people to hear this information. I just think that our priority, our focus is generally right now school curriculum, and I think that that's the place there's the least wiggle room. Like, there's the least amount of time in a day to teach. I think just the curriculum is so packed that everybody is stressed about teaching to the test. Like, the test's coming. We don't really, in our district, in our area, there's not a lot of time for, we're an hour to the state capitol, and rarely, the end of the year in June, the classes, certain grades go to the State Museum for the day. But it's like a reward at the end of the year, because there's no time during the school year to go on a field trip. So I just think that if the priority at the moment to kind of get things rolling is within the structure of schools, then it's really crunched. I get more excited when I think of, like, for example, where I am, a good friend of mine has a blog, Teaching History Matters, and he's been like the CBS Person of the Week. He's a fellow at the Holocaust Museum. He was just in Israel to, like, the 60 Minutes program for Israel he was on. He's a social studies teacher in high school, but he brought in all of, in our area, and I had him actually, I think it was first year he taught, 20-something years ago, but he brought in people's grandparents and whomever that had been in World War II, and we archived as part of our classroom specific battles. You listen to all of these veterans talk about things, and he had in the process of that, at one point uncovered a specific liberalization, where this train was the U.S., somebody from our area was part of the U.S. troops that liberalized train, and now all of these Holocaust survivors have met with their liberators. And so, I mean, he's a great example, this teacher, Matt Roselle, of like what one great teacher can do. I mean, he so inspires his community.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's that connection with people.
Exactly.
If you meet somebody and you start to talk about them, you hear their history, and then you want to share yours, and you realize that they're so similar. So I think that, like, that's the best of it, and that's what you hope for, and what you get when it's really great.
I love that story.
But the idea of just, like, if we're prioritizing kind of where we're going with this information, if we need to prioritize, maybe we don't have to do it in that way. And I just think we've got to be really dynamic so that it's something. And state ed folks that are there, you can help me out with this. Where do teachers fit it in the curriculum?
I like what you're bringing out. Yeah, because I could see that
to
it's
go do some great things.
I think that what you're saying too is that it's kind of like I'm a marketing and public relations person. My company, Narrative Network, that's what we do. We market and publicize, and I really think that there's a big selling job here for the teachers.
Yeah.
But I think that if teachers could really be excited about it, like your friend who was so excited about his Jewish background, right, or that he was he was excited about that history. I think that's great. I mean, I worked with the Tuskegee Airmen. They just did a conversation. I don't know if you heard about it. They did a conversation at the public library with these 8-year-old kids on whether they would do what they did. And it was just great. So that was a free, intergenerational conversation. But the kids, each of them, these little boys, spoke about, well, I don't know if I would do that. And some of them said, yeah, I would do that. I would, I would fly. And even though if I came out, I wouldn't be considered a real citizen, and I wouldn't be able to vote, but I would still try to be, a pilot and fly in the war and, win the war. So I think it's an education of the teachers. I think this Amistad mission has to be sold in a way that the teachers will embrace it and that the school systems will embrace it. So I think that's another one of our challenges.
That's a lot of time to spend on 20, 30 lines of tennis. So how do we spend that amount of time? Where do we fit that in? Let's see what the social studies teacher is already doing, and how can we build on that? And there are resources through the state. There's things like the SCDN network where we can send out surveys, set up an online survey. We can send that out through SCDN, ask them to pass it on to the districts, ask them to pass it on to the social studies teachers. Another thing that you folks were talking about was the selling of this product. You're talking about changing the way, if I understand correctly, we perceive the history. I grew up with CBS doing special things on Saturday mornings with the cartoons on Black History Month. But we want to move away from that. We want to make we want to make the kids aware of everyone's contribution as a part of the history, not as oh, by the way, this happened too. Do I have that right? Am I on the right page here? Yes, no, maybe, somebody? Okay. I understand. So really what we need to come up with is a cohesive brief that is something that people will remember, message perhaps, that we can use with teachers, that we can use with schools, that we can use with the public, a focal point, not only for public relations purposes, and certainly for that reason, but also to help teachers who have always taught it this way. Lisa, I think you mentioned the Black History Month piece in Glens Falls. I have to wonder why you're in New York City. I mean, I'm in Albany. You seem like you went the long way. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's a combination, because we still have to do the separate.
How do we
still have to do the separate Black
to the social
history
studies teachers as well?
thing.
If we give them
I mean,
15
the ultimate
pages, it's not gonna
goal, I
happen.
guess, for
If we can do it in a
us,
paragraph
that we
or
wouldn't
two,
need an Amistad
we can come up with
committee.
something close.
But we're
and-
not.
and
That's why
tight.
we have an Amistad
Help
committee, because we
that
have
shift. I think we're going to get more of a result.
to. So it's a combination of both, I think.
Like Bones had a little bit deeper. What are you thinking with respect to a
Oh, I don't know that yet.
Okay, I mean, like the infusion, an infusion statement, or is it that look? I mean, you know, is this it's part of the culture? You know, or there are resources? I mean, what is it that we're getting at?
I'm going to take it back to what I'm doing now. 'Cause as a network team member for New York State, I'm going back and I'm selling the Common Core. I'm selling the new APPR. One of the lines that I brought, because there's a lot of concern, Lisa mentioned this.
We could, if you talk, we can't hear over here. It's we can hear. That's right.
It was double duty today. I'm
Lisa
taking
mentioned
care of
one
some
the
other
concerns
New York
is
City
the new
business. I
annual
couldn't do
professional
otherwise.
performance review. People are wondering, are we going to lose their jobs? Are we going to lose their jobs and the like? The simple line that I brought back to our districts is, this is to help you, not get you.
Right.
If things aren't going as well in the classroom as we would like, as you would probably like, what can we do to help you help the kids more? We're not out to get you. We're not out to get rid of you. It's too expensive to hire new teachers and everything. It takes too much time. What can we do to help you? Something as simple as to help you, not get you. It's something that's sticking with our teachers and sticking with our administrators. Maybe in Amistad's statement it's not going to be that brief, but I'm talking about something tight that we can send to social studies teachers saying, okay, here's what we're looking for. We're looking for this shift from where you are. And I think that goes back to my first statement. We may need to survey social studies teachers to see where they are right now. How are they teaching it? How is it currently incorporated into the elementary curriculum? 4th and 5th grade is American history. 7th and 8th grade is New York and American history. Global studies, it's certainly a large part of global studies, and of course 11th grade. So we've got a lot of people to talk to see what's going on, and then what shift needs to be made in their thinking and in their approach to get them to where we'd like to see their instruction go. Final thing, it was already mentioned that I heard people talking about all these different possible resources. Let's not only find possible resources and develop that inventory of existing resources around the state, but let's be sure that whatever focal point we identify, that they match it. Because not everybody sees things the same way. As part of the National Abolition Hall of Fame and Museum, we struggled with, do we induct John Brown or not? Was he a hero or was he a terrorist? We ended up inducting him. There's a woman up in the North Country who runs an organization called John Brown Lives, and they've got something going on sometime this month. I just got a publication. Local PBS station has something called the Ivory Tower, area professors getting together and discussing politics and the like. and they do their cheers and jeers at the end, and one of them was cheering John Brown being part of the National Abolition Hall of Fame and the fact that we're celebrating this terrorist. So not everybody's going to see things the same way, and it's okay to have those disagreements, but let's be sure that at least the big picture, anybody that we're recommending kind of falls into that category, that they meet our idea of what that big picture is. And I'll back.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I think that that's the problem with slavery is also the problem with teaching the Civil War.
Yeah,
There are still a lot of people, and we hear it in the election talks today, that people, a lot of Americans have two different ideas about what happened during the Civil War. And I understand that the Civil War and how that's taught in the school system is a main chapter or a main curriculum item.
I guess the first
So
thing we
it
have to
seemed
do,
to me that we would
can do a survey.
we would have some.
First thing we have to do is determine what
we would
questions
like
we're
to
going to be asked
inject
and who.
or see kind of what are the schools doing about how they teach the Civil War.
Educators?
I mean, that's the chapter. I have a degree in African American studies. I had to take as part of my history degree, I had to take a few courses on the Civil War. So I guess American history is the same way. So, you know, what you're saying, I like what you're saying because we have to really look at what are the teachers already doing. We have to see, and then how can we kind of insert or shift it a little bit, impact it a little bit.
Hey, Dan, we used SurveyMonkey before remember there was a survey but it surveyed students, but we didn't do anything that surveyed educators, right? Okay.
Right. So how do you survey the teachers?
Is there anything upcoming, like where, you know, all these curriculum directors from all these different districts across the state, is there a state meeting where a good sampling of them would be at? Like, is there anything coming up where you could, you know, have an hour discussion with curriculum directors and districts and kind of get a feel for what their thoughts are, what they're doing, where they see things fitting in better? You know, like I do think we're right that some of it is it does have to be really well, kind of tight and packaged, and I think, like, for example, I walked in on, like, the day after Martin Luther King Day, I walked into a second grade classroom to do an observation, and they were doing a smartboard lesson on Dr. King with the second graders. It was like 15 minutes. But I know that teacher just, she was referred to some lesson. She went and took that off. Now, she didn't, she didn't know as a social worker sitting in her classroom observing a student that I have an African studies degree. So I was kind of looking at it like, well, this is really interesting. I wonder how accurate this smartboard lesson is, or what it's, what the essence of it is saying to a second grader. But like, I think that's where teachers are going to pull from is smartboard lessons, ways that you're going to meet the kids more. Textbooks, I feel like they are used, but to a lesser degree. And so, like, you could have a lesson, like, I think even with an Africana Studies degree, I don't think I heard until I was on this commission that, I think Dr. Bellinger may have said that more slaves had come into the port in New York than any other port in the country.
Great.
I'd never heard that. Like, there isn't any public marker of that. I'm sure that's not like
New Jersey put a lot of money into theirs.
Would hear, but it would be a starting point, like in a lesson, if you heard that, and that was focused on for a minute, and you could expand just so it's not like the South is where slavery happened, or and it can open up other discussions.
They have a whole
but
different
I think,
statutory scheme as well.
If we could, I guess I'm kind of wandering a bit, but the idea of, like, if there is some kind of state meetings where you have superintendents or curriculum directors already, and if we could have a captive audience to discuss this a little bit, they're really who to get to. And then the piece about, like, I know the New Jersey Commission, we had the rep come in and did a great presentation before of some of the curriculum development teachers are doing there, and like this whole kind of web library of smartboard lessons and things like that. So, like we had said, not recreating the wheel, but to build on what's there. If we already have those resources, and again, check that it's from the perspective we are hoping to present.
What does it mean in terms of the kinds of
kind of through that angle of that's kind of, I think
we could build on the curriculum that we have, or we could actually decide that we want New York's.
If we're looking at
we could decide that we want New York's Amistad Commission to be bigger and better than anybody else's. I don't know, maybe we want to take a.
So I think we need to think about those.
Yeah. Oh, is that? Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm really excited.
Well, I really am. I could see that they have, and I've been studying theirs because it seems like it's very comprehensive, and I wondered if they had a budget.
Someone said earlier, the Afro-Latino experience. My parents were from Puerto Rico. I know that, we were enslaved, along with the Dominican Republic, along with Haiti, along with Cuba. And so there's a lot of commonality there. And as the Latino groups in this country continue to grow, along with the African American population, we are largely the biggest minority in the country. And so the whole issue is trying to give relevance and validity to who we are as a people. And I think that we need to touch on these, and we need to bring this in together. The last thing that I'd like to say is that it seems to me that, I'm not a historian, nor am I a curriculum specialist, but every time I hear about the African American experience, it seems to start at slavery. And to me, I get this notion that our history began when Columbus came to America. But I know that Africans were explorers as well, and they might have come here before Columbus. And so I almost like to start at a point where our youngsters are feeling really positive about their history as a result of a whole lineage of things that might have occurred before we became slaves, and then hitting that whole history. Just a thought.
What are you?
Exactly. I think that would give us a context. Not that we had to spend a lot of time, but just giving us a context and using that as a springboard for, more contemporary history in this country with regard to our people. Yeah.
Good.
That's great. I agree with you. Carlos, that's a great thought. I'm glad you brought that out, because that's the point I think that I was trying to make, is that it's not just slavery, it's not just the African American
Mary,
experience with
I
slavery.
did. I'm Mary
It's-
Teresa
we
Stark, and
started
I'm
out
principal of a very small
from the
charter school
African
in Troy, New
continent,
York.
but
And we are primarily
because of
African-American
slavery is the
and
reason why you
Latino.
have
So,
these black people
for
in
years and years and
Dominican
years, our
Republic,
task has
in
been to
Haiti,
infuse this
in
into our
Puerto
curriculum
Rico,
as
in
often as
Cuba.
possible.
That's
We
where they
don't just
came
do
from.
African
Those are
American
not
history.
native people,
So,
but again,
I was very
as you
excited
said,
about
it's
being
the
a part of this commission because,
the ancient
when I left
history.
the
What
school
about
today, I
the
said,
ancient
all of you are going to be a
African
part of this commission,
explorers who
because
landed
we're
in the
going
New
to now
World?
look
We
at
should know
how
about that
we can
too.
really be a little bit of a beacon of infusing this even
I
more
agree.
into our curriculum. We have a very creative staff, and they're also very sensitive to our students. And so part of the next steps going forward, and I love the fact that
I
we're
don't
going
think
to have all of
there's
these
that much
resources
known
and
about
hopefully,
African
bring them
explorers. I mean, I know one
to
book
each other
that,
through technology, which is great. We
speculates
have smart boards,
about
and we have
that,
all the
about
technology
the
as well.
but there's
But I think
certainly
the
a
next
lot
thing
known
is
about
to
Africa.
have people like
Right.
me
And
and
the
like other
areas
principals
in
be a
particular
part
where
of,
slaves came
let's
from
take
and
what
why
we've
they
got so
came and
far and let's see how
what
we
happened
can really
that
build
made
this,
certain
and
people
really
end up
flesh this
enslaved
so that
and
our
not
students are really
others. And I
celebrating.
think that
I think you said the key word there too. As we're
there's a
struggling
lot
with where
about
is this
that.
going
The
to
question,
fit, use
the
the
problem
word
is how to
infuse.
fit all that into the curriculum.
Integral part
And I
of
think,
not
really,
something else we have to do.
The
I think
idea
that
of
will take a lot of
building,
pressure
looking
off.
at
Our teachers have read
in
Night
the
Job,
curriculum,
and that's a
for
tough
those of
book
you
to
who
read with
do that,
fifth, sixth
think,
graders.
okay,
Because
where are
you
the
have to
places
deal
where
with that.
could be
You have to deal with
inserted?
modern day racism when you deal
So-
with Night John. And when you deal with Mildred Taylor's Let the Circle Be Unbroken. Those things are powerful pieces for children, but they're not in schools. And I remember the year that Encounter came out, it's the book Encounter, and that was Christopher Columbus landing, and it was through the eyes of the natives. And boy, that was a controversial book when it came out. And you don't hear too much more about it, but it's in our library. And we also had amazing African-American authors come to our school, and they went out to dinner with the kids, and they, it was just so exciting. Those, I think we have to figure out not only the resources, but how to bring it to our local levels.
Mary, you mentioned going back to your school and
Well, they'll be a
using-
part of this.
It's almost like you're an ambassador of the Amistad Commission, and it just occurred to me that you all are. I mean, there's a role for each of you, I think, in going out to your communities and trying to advance exactly what we're discussing here. And maybe we can develop that. That's an interesting approach. I like it. Yeah.
I think one of the key things, just to reference again when we are talking about Common Core in the opportunities that it provides for that kind of infusion, when New York when the board adopted the Common Core standards last year, every state had the option of adding up to 15% of state content in those standards. If you look at the strands for reading, writing, speaking, listening, they all have a separate strand that talks about essentially cultural competence. I mean, it's cultural reading texts from diverse cultures and working with texts from diverse cultures. That's extremely, I think, germane to this conversation, because as our Commissioner King has encouraged schools across the state this year to practice developing a Common Core aligned unit once per semester, practice, have those conversations locally, work with teachers, administrators on doing that. again, the notion of how do we infuse, how do we address the challenge of Common Core in our different disciplines? What does it look like? It may look different to a social studies teacher than a science teacher. How does that happen? So I think, using that as kind of your entry point and knowing that the standards really are looking at the ways in which we learn from text and the different types of texts that are out there becomes really essential. And if you're not familiar with this website of Engage New York, engageny.org, that's become our portal for all information regarding the Regents Reform Agenda implementation of Common Core. EngageNY.org, the word engage, E-N-G-A-G-E, yes, ny.org. That becomes our portal really for information regarding implementation of Common Core. And there are resources on there, everything from how to evaluate Common Core aligned lessons. We've developed in partnership with other states something called a tri-state rubric. And it literally is that. You can sit down as a curriculum leader or as a teacher in a school and evaluate a lesson against the Common Core to see whether it addresses those principles. There's also material on the website like publishers' criteria, which literally are for curriculum developers and textbook publishers and vendors that if you're creating Common Core aligned materials, consider these elements to align to them. So everything from making sure that when you have a text source, it's a complete text. It's not an edited or truncated passage. Think about the types of questions you ask around a text that you use. So again, those may be resources going forward that would be helpful for the commission members to consider.
Larry, can you give us a squib that sort of introduces that to the commission members and puts it in the framework of cultural competence, perhaps, because that's what we're talking about, right? And how to develop that. And then, among the other things, I guess we'll be sending out to the commission, we'll send that out as well, so that they have access to the website and perhaps can share that with whoever they want to share it with. Because we'll be hopefully networking a great deal and bringing other folks into the work of the commission and developing what we can develop. So that could be a good hunk of it.
Yeah, and again, what's good too is that all these resources, they're publicly available, they're online now, and they're there to be worked with. So
I think,
What did he say, engage?
in the very beginning, we all know there's a lot of stuff out there, all right? The trick is going to be to make it accessible, visible.
Engage
And
NY.
also, somebody mentioned that, what, you also got to make sure that the resources that we're recommending are appropriate resources. I think, John, that was your point. So this is the beginning of that. And I'm going to ask folks on the commission, independently or together, to start sending us information, to start sending SCD information, and we'll be compiling it, all right? And
Where do we send that?
Right. Pamela Horiteni will be our district support. Pamela, you there? All right. Pamela, what's the email address and contact information for you?
Who's updating the website? The Amistad website, or is that a place where you put some of the stuff that we're doing?
It's funny, I was just having a very, very quiet conversation with Larry. Yeah, I think that, to me, a great deal of good can be done on the Amistad website, and that could become a point of focus, for educators and for the public alike.
I like the colors.
Yeah. So it has not been updated,
No.
in years since. But we have a lot more to do. I mean, that should be a place for folks to go. So as we've been talking, I've been thinking that when I say there's a lot of stuff out there, when we figure out what the stuff is, guess what? That should be the place where we put it with links.
I think so.
So yeah. Oh, that'd be wonderful, and I'll put you in touch. Yeah, you would be,
Pamela, send it
Yeah.
to you? Okay.
we've done a lot,
HORITANI
at
uh-huh,
DOS.NY.gov.
okay, Pam Horatani at, yeah, there is a website, it's an old one. Also, it's there, okay. No, it's years probably.
Right.
I have some ideas about the website too, since I have a media company. I'd love to help you guys with your website in updating it. You know, to make it a little bit more interactive and, because right now it's just, it looks like that no one's looked at it in years. There's old stuff on there. So I have just some, you know, simple ideas I thought might make it more user-friendly.
Yeah, here's
and,
what-
I don't know.
We can bring in Chris Valens.
I have a
Yeah.
question. Last year,
Right.
some
Some
months ago,
years
I
ago.
got a phone call from a journalist, which I think I referred him to Pam or somebody because I didn't want to answer the questions, but it was a very kind of, what is this committee? It was a kind of a hostile
I think-
questioning.
Right.
That's not a
And I
bad
think he
idea.
called a lot of people who were on the
Yeah,
commission.
but here's
In
what
fact,
we'll
I
do.
don't
Chris
know if
Valens is our
I'm still on it,
PIO.
because I think maybe my
All
term
right.
expired.
I'll be
But
chatting
I
with
think
Chris
that
now, since
members
it's
of the
already been let
commission
out for public
should
consumption, the
be
notice of the meeting was
told
had
by
and
folks
circulated and
what to
has
do
been in the public
if they
media.
get these kind of calls.
So
who
that's
you
sort of
refer
already
them
done.
to.
Right.
Right.
But we will.
Right, I was gonna bring that out.
I basically
Now,
said I
how to
can't talk
best
to the press about
posture
this,
the
and
position
yes,
in the
the
public
commission
so
has
that
met,
we're
and
not,
yes, the commission has
you
done
know,
work, but it was,
chastised,
they
because we
were
are doing work. We will
rather,
be doing work. And we do want
hostile
folks to know that.
questions,
And
and
in
I didn't
fact,
know
we're
what
also
he
going to want to
was
do outreach,
after,
aren't we? Because that's.
Right, I was
purpose
gonna
of the
bring that
commission
out,
is-
that I saw the New York
is
Times
to do
article.
outreach.
Was it?
Yeah, and it
I
was
would
like
never
4
tell
years
commission
after
members
Black History
not
and
to
Panel's
speak to the
birth,
press.
it's still a work
However,
deferred.
you know
So
what
I was
hospital
thinking
is
that,
and what-
you know,
what-
as a
what
PR
is.
person, that
I mean, obviously,
the
we would like to
commission,
know,
the
but
governor
the
should
commission members are
actually
also gonna
issue
be, as I said before,
a
ambassadors of the
press
commission.
release
So I
announcing
think
that he's
you will, in part,
named a
be-
new,
you do the
you
outreach.
know,
We'll be the ones who bring
commission,
the
there are new
message.
people,
It's
because
not-
the article goes into that, you know, they couldn't get people to be on the commission, and then once they did, then
Yeah.
they didn't do anything. So you want we want you guys to release a press release that says that this commission has been,
Yep.
you have new members, and you had your first meeting, and this is what happened, and something. And that,
In fact,
I mean, I would
you
be
can
happy to
contact Chris,
draft the
number that I
press
put
release
down
for you.
myself. You don't have that because you're.
I mean,
This
you
is
know.
working. If I
This
forget,
article is from before this guy called me.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
this is
We're gonna send the
2009.
This is the 2009, yeah, but
Yeah.
I just thought, well, we need something, and I could just give you the template that, you know, just to
No,
announce that
no.
the commission
It was just a
has
notice that
met,
the
had
meeting
its
was being
first
had.
meeting, these are the people
Yeah.
at the meeting, these are the
Yeah.
new commission members, and just, you know, kind of a general what it is, and it happened. Is that okay? Okay. Okay. Oh.
So let me suggest that we've had a lot of ideas and communication here, and what the next step might be is for us, that is your ex officio, take this home and begin to structure how we're going to receive information from you. And we will be communicating with you pending the next meeting. What I'd also welcome is any communication, individual or collaborative, that you would like to make with us with respect to furthering any of your ideas or giving us information. So when we provide the contact sheets, you'll have our email addresses.
But we can certainly provide every
phone numbers.
commission member
right, really.
with Chris Valens' name and contact information, because Chris Valens, he's our communications.
Oh, okay.
Right, he's our
Yeah.
press
Everyone's
officer,
taking notes.
and you should be able to just say, yes,
but
I'm
we're
on the
gonna miss
commission,
stuff.
and
So,
if you have any
for the
questions,
key
please
things
direct
that
it
you
to
want
Chris
us to
Valens.
know,
I didn't know
what you
who
want to
sent
do,
it to
We'll
us.
give you that
I
information.
said we
Okay.
I'd like you to email us and let us know in writing so that we can then compile that, sort through it, and begin a new structure for the Amistad Commission. Fair enough?
Sounds good.
I'll ask,
Okay,
I'm gonna
that's good.
ask Pam to
So
send
do I have
that
anybody else
contact
before we
information to everybody.
conclude this?
Right. And send us
think
the
about next
copy of
meeting?
whatever was sent out to the public, because I don't think we got it.
Well, great. I want to thank everybody.
I think
It's
just
been
a notice
always,
was up. It was a notice of
past
meeting
productive.
and with
This
the
was a very
agenda.
productive meeting.
Oh,
I get a
I
lot of
didn't see that.
enthusiasm from
Did
folks.
anybody see
I'm
that?
so
This is
grateful
what
for
went
that.
up? This is
And,
what went
we
up?
will be scheduling
Oh, the
meeting.
agenda.
I want to have something
Under
to
the,
deliver back
there's
to
a
you.
new
for the meeting, so
provision
we'll
of
be
the open
communicating,
meetings law
in terms of
that
by
requires
email, before then.
public
So why don't we do
commissions
that?
and
When we're ready to go,
entities
we'll schedule another meeting,
to
and,
post
hopefully
materials.
that's
So, for example, in the future,
Sound good?
if we were going
All
to
right,
be
folks, I
reviewing,
hereby call this meeting adjourned.
some proposal, it
Adjourned.
might be that the
All right,
draft
thank you, everybody.
is posted on the website for the meeting to allow the public.
Sorry, Larry. Good to meet you.
Well, see you again. We'll be fine.
I know, but it's out of context.
Yeah,
It-
yeah.
It's gonna come to me.
No, I know, I think we're even at a few tables together.
What?
I think we're at a few tables together.
Well,
Maybe
yeah,
in
I work with
August or-
Cindy Williams.
Yeah, yes, yes.
So, how is Cindy doing these days? I don't know. I haven't heard from her. She, I don't know if you know that she resigned. Yeah, she resigned,
You know, because
her position
but then when I was.
about a month and a half ago
Earlier today, I was thinking,
with Rosie's.
the big
And I've only spoken with her once since then, but,
I hope she's doing okay.
yeah, she'll be fine. She's getting married.
Oh, well, that's great.
She and, I'm drawing a blank on her hubby and her honey now.
Carlos, it was nice
No.
meeting you, sir.
Yeah, real pleasure.
Thank you.
I really don't know how to turn this off.
Yeah, we're going to elope, but if you're gonna elope, you just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting married,
Nobody knows that we exist, but it's pretty amazing what's happening.
I like to bring my
And,
oldest son too. He
we're
goes.
not out to put the others out there.
Dan?
We are there, partners with Trump.
thought.
You know, we started that way 11 years ago.
I've done a lot of work developing, just
Technically challenged.
I've done a lot of work with teachers.
I gotta go to the medical really quick, so I know I'm invited to go.
But I've done a wiki.
Yeah.
And invited people to it, the people who are part of it, and if you set up certain categories, like I did, part 2A, part 2B for the tests. If you set up categories on a wiki,
Yeah. We will do that.
So,
yeah,
yeah,
it's a good place to brainstorm. You gotta do, I'll send you my,
Oh, would you do that?
I'll send you my, an invite to mine so you can kind of see how I set it up.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think
She brings, you know, and I just think
I-
that there is so
we'll be
much
focused.
that, you
I
know, it's
need
all
to
kind
get
of,
these
maybe
ideas.
forget all these reasons.
I have my own
I was
ideas.
thinking to myself, if you were pointing out something to schools, you would almost, you know, want to be able to say to them, you know, what is your primary culture? And then maybe go in through that primary culture and then introduce the other. Because, you know what, if I teach the whole African American to a primarily white, they're gonna say, yeah.
Okay.
But if you go in there
And,
and then
Yeah, I think it's great way for us to communicate.
That's what we need. We need to, the needs is categorized, you know, and develop how we
And human slavery, human bondage.
a lot of these issues, because these cities, when they grow up, the core curriculum's gonna be what the history is. Whether or not some folks take it up.
I always jokingly call it Common Core. It's really, to me, it's really about how do you ensure year by year you're building progressive knowledge and skill in key areas, but then, you know, again, topics like Amistad is working on intersects with that directly.
Yeah.
How do you get it out on it?
I think you're right. And you know, you can count us in. I mean, I know, when I left there today, I said, you're all part of this. And you know, that group would be willing to sit down. It's just a little microcosm in taking that social studies curriculum.
I just see that as the.
You know, it would be relevant to our.
I think, I know right now they're changing, going for like a common core science curriculum.
Right.
But definitely, social studies necessarily, we want a common core social studies curriculum until we decide whether there's the war of northern aggression.
But that's why it's in states across the country, that's like
Point
an
of practice,
soon,
so
so.
figure out the strategy, what works, and starting next year, you know, we're gonna do the policy practices here, really, it's like, you want to look like now that your school, other schools have played around, piloted, I think, you know, organizations, I know we didn't quite get to talk about the networks that are there, there's a state social studies practice document. I know, that they should be sharing, here's what we did to assure the infusion, and pay attention to the Common Core strand.
Right. I remember that from the old meeting.
Oh, yeah, because there are 700.
It's a pleasure seeing you, and I know we'll have a
Soon as we want.
Seeing you, Mayor. Yes, nice to meet you both.
Take care.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Nice to meet you.
Great together.
Brought lunch.
Appreciate your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go back and choose your kids.
You got it.
All right.
Steak dinner, I thought. That's true. It was good seeing you formally in the setting.
It's nice meeting you.
We'll touch base.
Okay,
next
so
time.
I assume that Mary will be taking over.
But we can debrief with her.
Yeah.
So if you want to set up a call to do that.
I think we have some homework, all right? We'll chat about it.
There's some homework,
I
but
don't think it's huge, you know.
I don't think it's huge. The thing is, there are networks to leverage, so they are there. I think groups like, frankly, you know, you got your state social studies council, for example.
Yeah.
So, and Mary and I were just talking about that. So this is, right, this is implementation here at Common Core, so next year, let's learn about the promising practices, what do people do? The networks are there, it's a question of leveraging them, and.
Leveraging and knowing who they are. We don't know, I don't know anything.
Yeah, so
I'm
we
not in
can-
that
we
world,
can-
so you feed us,
We
or
can
develop
easily do that.
and then we'll
Yeah.
publish it, if you will, and we'll, in that way, develop, you know, your.
So some of the folks that I supervise are the librarians, and that was deliberate that we put library and technology together. So
Yeah.
these are the connectors, these are the information folks. They jump at any opportunity to be that bridge and connector. So we can,
That's
again,
right.
NILA would be a good group, there's, you know, these are folks, just say the word, they'll get it out, and they'll invite you. But just be ready, because they're gonna say, we've got a slot for you, we've got an audience, what do you want? You know, so just be ready, these are
That's
groups that are
good.
there,
And,
yeah.
you know, I want to use the other stuff. I want to use the numbers. When I say I want you to be ambassadors, I really do, because, you know, what better way to get the word out, you know? And list of volunteers, which is one of the charges, well, volunteers come and go. I don't know what that means. You have a volunteer in the city, he or she will have 7,000 calls every day. What are you going to do? You know, I
Right,
don't know.
yeah. But I'm thrilled that you were part of the network, you are part of the network work, because that's a
Thank you,
national.
Dan, for understanding this transition. It's been.
Oh, yeah, see you again in May, right?
Absolutely.
Learning everything, so thank you very much.
Take care.
Thanks, folks. I think we had, take care now. I think we had a miscommunication, really, a long-standing thing. Only because, I have to tell you that, it's a funny story. I've been caught a few times with technology. And, I was in here, it was.
Keep your fingers away from your nose, and.
Oh, a lot worse than that, but,
Yeah.
let's see.
Yeah, I apologize for getting into something. I know we're being recorded. I just rushed for 30 seconds.
Oh, you got it. Yeah,